Chapter 932. Now that she thought about it, Xiao couldn't help but regret why she had chosen this kind of master. If she could choose, she definitely wouldn't choose to follow her. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before even her life would be in her hands. Shen Yueji, that slut! Pang Yuan gritted her teeth as she shouted her name, clenching her fists tightly. You're really something. You're already like this. Yet you're still being protected by older brother Emperor and the Empress Dowager. Xiao carefully raised her head to look at her. Your Highness, this servant feels that this matter can't be completely decided yet. Once we return to the palace, we'll know what the Emperor and Empress Dowager are thinking. Right now, we're outside the palace, and as the saying goes, one mustn't wash one's dirty linen in public. The Empress Dowager might also be thinking the same thing, but once we enter the palace, every time you say that what you say is reasonable, every time you say it so that Ben Gong doesn't doubt it, but every time you make Ben Gong embarrass myself, allowing that slut to gain the upper hand, rather than scheming against others here, why don't you think about whether or not you can safely return to the palace tonight? Pang Yuan was angrily scolding her when a woman's mocking and cold voice suddenly came from behind her. She was startled. After that, she came to her senses and looked around vigilantly. Who is it? Who's playing tricks? Who's talking? Quickly get out here for Ben Gong. In truth, she wasn't afraid of the person playing tricks behind her. With just her status, no one would dare have any ideas about her. After she finished speaking, the voice that had just sounded suddenly became quiet, so quiet that it seemed as if it didn't exist, as if what she had just said was just an illusion. Xiao looked around in fear. This was the carriage of the Empress, and it was heavily guarded, so how could there be a voice? But just now, she really did hear someone speak, and that woman's voice was very cold and frightening. Xiao lifted the curtain of the carriage and looked outside, only to find that the carriage in front of them was already very far away. She couldn't see the carriage in front at all, only their carriage was moving. Even the coachman looked very strange, because the road he was riding on was not the road to the Imperial Palace, but a slope. At this time, Xiao finally realized that something was wrong. She grabbed Pang Yuan's hand and said, Your ladyship is not good. Xiao did not dare to raise her voice. Instead, she carefully lowered her voice and whispered in Pang Yuan's ear. However, before she could get close, Pang Yuan impatiently pulled away from her. Scram, you lowly servant. Don't come so close to me. Xiao was scared and anxious. She motioned for her to look outside. Your ladyship, we have been tricked. This is not the way back to the palace. We have been taken away. Even the driver is not from the palace. What should we do? Your Highness. Her voice sounded like she was about to cry. At this moment, Pang Yuan also realized that something was wrong. She squinted her eyes and looked outside. What's going on? Gee. There was another sneer in the air. This time, Pang Yuan couldn't sit still. Who is it? If you have the ability, come out for me. Don't play tricks behind my back. I am a first-rank imperial concubine of the northern underworld. I hold the Phoenix Seal. If you dare to play tricks on me behind my back, I will definitely make you die. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, The Regent, Messing with the Body Claw Book House for free. Chapter 933. Oh, everyone says that you, Pang Yuan, are more arrogant than the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. You really live up to your reputation. What? Don't you think about your own situation? How dare you try to threaten me? Pang Yuan. I have to say, you're quite bold. Pang Yuan could tell from the voice that it was a woman just now, but now it sounded like a man and not a woman, so she couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman. Pang Yuan clenched her fists. The situation made her a little anxious because this was not the road to the Imperial Palace, but a forest. It was so quiet all around, except for the sounds of insects. It was so quiet that it was scary, especially with this person's terrifying laughter. It made her feel numb. It was the first time in her life that she felt so scared. However, she still pretended to be calm as she clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Since you know my identity, why don't you quickly come out and see me? How dare you bring me here without permission? Aren't you afraid that I'll cut you into 1,000 pieces and make you wish you were dead if I find out who you are? The person hiding in the dark didn't care about her threat at all. After hearing her words, she laughed even more sarcastically. You people in the imperial court, if you're not satisfied with the slightest bit, you'll be killed, beheaded, and cut into pieces. Apart from this, is there anything new? I've heard these words for so many years that my ears have grown calluses. It was the first time in Pang Yuan's life that someone who wasn't afraid of her identity could talk to her and mock her so calmly after being threatened by her. She was a little flustered. In fact, the moment she was captured, she had already thought about it. Since the other party knew her identity and was not afraid at all, and could still capture her to this place, it was enough to show that the other party was not threatened by her at all. However, she still had the mentality of giving it a try. Seeing that her threat was useless, Pang Yuan couldn't help but relax. She tried to speak to her in a calm tone. What do you mean by kidnapping me? Do you have something important to discuss with me? At this moment, the carriage had stopped. For the sake of safety, they did not alight from the carriage. Instead, they lifted the curtain and looked out. It was a forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was lush and green, accompanied by the occasional chirping of insects. The night was as dark as ink, and even the moonlight was terrifyingly dark. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers in front of them, causing people to subconsciously feel flustered. Pang Yuan glared at the maid beside her. Go down and take a look. Her tone carried a command that could not be refused. Xiao was startled, and her eyes darted around. It was so dark outside, and there might be some wild beasts roaming about. What if there were snakes underground? She hesitantly stayed in the carriage, not daring to get off. Noticing her hesitation, Pang Yuan raised her eyebrows and said impatiently, Are you deaf? How dare you disobey this consort's will? If this consort tells you to go down, then go down. Xiao clenched her teeth. Compared to staying here and being scolded by the Empress, she would rather go down. The voice disappeared again. It was as if she was deliberately leaving them hanging. She didn't come out to meet them. Even when she talked to them, she only said one sentence at a time. Xiao carefully held the edge of the carriage and got off the carriage. The coachman who drove the carriage just now had also disappeared. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, The Prince Regent, Provoking the Body Claw Book House for free. Chapter 934. Xiao hesitated and felt uneasy. When her feet touched the ground, the wet soil made her feel even more panicked and afraid. She looked around, trembling with fear. It was dark all around, and there was pitifully little moonlight. Her surroundings were accompanied by the sounds of insects. Suddenly, there was the sound of wild beasts. She was so scared that her whole body trembled and tears fell from the corners of her eyes. From the moment she came down, Pang Yuan put down the curtain of the carriage. In the past, she always had embroidered secret guards by her side. Because of today's Lantern Festival, she went out with her brother Emperor and Empress Dowager. This was the only time she did not have any guards by her side. Even the secret guards were left in the palace. If she had known that this would happen, Pang Yuan would not have left those secret guards in the palace. Your Highness, Xiao looked around in fear and vigilance. Your Highness, do you think there are ghosts here? This servant sees several graves. The night was dark and things were blurry, but those protruding graves were very close to her. They were especially conspicuous and looked terrifying and gloomy. The hairs on her back stood up. This little girl had always been timid. Xiao trembled and wanted to get on the carriage. Pang Yuan had already noticed her action. Before her hand could reach the edge of the carriage, Pang Yuan scolded her sternly. She was so scared that her hand trembled, and she almost slid off the edge of the carriage. Find someone for this consort. If you don't find the person, don't think of getting on. But the night was so dark. If Her Highness wasn't making things difficult for her, how could she find someone for Her Highness? Xiao felt so wrong that she was about to cry. Compared to the horror outside, she was actually more afraid of Pang Yuan. That person's voice seemed to have disappeared. From the moment she came down, it did not ring again. Woo, woo, woo. Suddenly, a sobbing sound came from the grass. This sound was especially frightening. The place where the sound came from was the grave behind her. Xiao was so scared that her whole body trembled. Out of the 7 souls, 6 were gone in an instant. She trembled and turned around. She did not dare to look at the grave, but she forced herself to look at it. When she looked over, the sobbing stopped abruptly, as if what she had just heard was a hallucination. Her face was pale with fright. She asked the person in the carriage, My lady, what? You? Did you hear someone crying just now? It's right behind us. Stop trying to mystify this empress. This consort asked you to go down and find that person, not to listen to your nonsense. If you dare to spout nonsense again, do you want to lose your tongue? Xiao was so scared that her body trembled. Your ladyship, I didn't lie. I really heard it. She looked around nervously, but Pang Yuan, the only one who gave her a sense of security, had already impatiently put down the curtain of the carriage. In the carriage, the woman's hateful tone was laced with threat and dissatisfaction. Go to where you heard it and find it for me. If you can't find him, you'll die there. Xiao did not dare to disobey her orders. Her legs trembled as she walked towards the grave where the sound came from. Woo-woo. The sobbing sound that had just subsided suddenly made a sound again. Who's playing tricks? You. Come out. I'm telling you, I won't be afraid of you. Who are you? Come out now. Baiduan. Chapter 935. Xiao plucked up her courage and walked forward. The carriage behind her was not far from her, about 4 or 5 steps away. The grave was covered with grass. In some places, the grass looked like it had been plucked by someone, but it also looked like it had never grown before. There was only a patch of yellow soil. However, it was obvious that no one had ever come to this place. If the person buried in the grave still had relatives, they would not have allowed their grave to be covered with grass. However, how could the grass on the grave have been plucked by someone? In the darkness, Xiao could not see clearly what was under the yellow soil. She only knew that there was a small hole. She curiously and fearfully poked her head to look. It was dark like a small cave in the middle of winter. When she looked down, she screamed. Her eyes widened in an instant, and a sharp scream pierced through the sky. Pang Yuan heard her voice and hurriedly opened the curtain of the carriage. What happened? She saw Xiao sitting on the ground weakly. Her eyes were wide open and bloodshot. Her mouth was wide open, and her whole body was trembling. She could not speak. Then she looked under the hem of her skirt, where her hand was pressing, and there was a large wet patch. Thinking of what it was, Pang Yuan's face became even more disgusted. She hurriedly took out a handkerchief to wipe her hand clean. If it were not for Xiao's delirious state, Pang Yuan would have given her a slap. What the hell happened? She patted Xiao's face hard. It took Xiao a long time to recover. Her lips trembled as she looked at Pang Yuan. She thought of the scene she saw in the grave. Her lips were purple, and her face was frighteningly green, like the face of a dead person. I was just inside in the grave. I saw face to face. She was so scared that she could not speak. Her voice and tone were frighteningly trembling. She couldn't even say a complete sentence. Ghost. Goddess, there's a ghost. There's really a ghost. It's a ghost face. I saw it. Boo-hoo. I saw it. I really saw it. Just now, she clearly saw a small hole in the burial mound. Out of curiosity, she moved her head closer to take a look. Who knew? Who knew that in the end, she saw a pale face from inside. It was a pale face with long hair draped over his shoulders. His hair was messy and there were worms on his head. His face was pale and his eyeballs were white. There were no black eyeballs. In just a split second, they were staring at each other. Lady, shut up. Pang Yuan glared at her fiercely. How can there be ghosts in this world? The so-called ghosts and gods were all nonsense. This is obviously the person who is playing tricks on us in the dark, pretending to be a ghost to scare us. You lowly servant, you've been by this consort's side for so many years, yet you're still afraid of these things. She was the one who should be the most afraid. She had killed so many people, but none of them really came to haunt her after they died. She had overestimated Xiao-Er's endurance. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Xiao-Er's eyes widen again. Her whole body trembled as she pointed behind her and said, "Nyang, Nyang Nyang, ghost, this consort wants to see if there are ghosts and monsters in this world." Peng Yuan stood up suddenly. When she turned around and saw that there was nothing behind her, her eyes suddenly narrowed dangerously. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, Prince Regent, Messing with Claw Bookstore for free. Chapter 936. She stared at Xiao-Er. "Where's the ghost? Where's the ghost you're talking about?" "Ah, save me, your highness." Before Peng Yuan's eyes met Xiao-Er's, a big black hand suddenly sprang out of the darkness. The hand was covered with black hair, like human hair. It grabbed Xiao-Er from the ground, pulled her hair, and quickly dragged her into the dark jungle. Xiao-Er screamed. As her figure disappeared, Xiao-Er's tragic scream came from the jungle. It was shocking to hear. Almost without thinking, one knew what happened to Xiao-Er inside. This time, Peng Yuan's face was completely pale. The black arm was like hair. Although it was not a ghost, it was more terrible than a ghost. She wanted to know whether Xiao-Er was dead or alive. After hearing that scream just now, how could she still be alive? But Peng Yuan did not have the courage to rush over and see if Xiao-Er was alive. Now that Xiao-Er was gone, she was alone here. It was dark all around, except for the grave, which was so bright that it made people's hearts numb. It made people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. Woo woo woo. The scalp-numbing sound came again. Xiao-Er heard it just now, but she did not. When she heard the scalp-numbing sound this time, she could no longer keep calm. Her eyes were scarlet, and her body was cold with fear. "Who is it? Who is it? I, Peng Yuan, have no grievances with you. Why would I pretend to be a ghost to scare people? Even if we did something wrong, Xiao-Er's death has already paid off the debt I owe you. What else do you want? Tell me. I'll give it all to you, whether it's identity or jewelry. As long as you ask, as long as you let me go back, I'll give you everything." Imperial Concubine Peng is really generous. "You're so afraid of this little opening. I thought you were really powerful." The disdainful voice sounded again. This time, Peng Yuan finally saw someone. It was a woman who could change her voice, a woman who could be a man or a woman. This woman looked completely unfamiliar to Peng Yuan. Her appearance was not very stunning, only average, and she was about 10 years older than her. She had no memory of a woman who was so much older than her. In her impression, she didn't seem to have offended such a person. Who are you? What is your purpose in capturing this consort here?" He was a human after all, not a ghost. Peng Yuan heaved a sigh of relief, and her heart was no longer as flustered as before. The woman in black sneered and didn't answer her question. Instead, she smiled coldly. "Although Imperial Consort Peng has made me think highly of you, your maidservant seems to be even more useless than you. You only hid in the grave to scare her, and she's actually so scared. What's your purpose in abducting me? Since you know my identity, then you should also know that my father is the current Dark North Dynasty's Grand Preceptor. He has a high position and great power. If you dare to do anything to me, my father will definitely make you beg for death. We're too lazy to care about the matters of the court, and we're not afraid. We only know that you, Imperial Consort Peng, have offended someone you shouldn't have. Therefore, my master sent me here to take your head, so that in the future, you won't use those little tricks to hurt others. I've killed so many people. If you really want to talk about offending, then the number of people I've offended should be quite a lot. But you should at least let me know who I've offended, right? Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, the Prince Regent, Messing with the Body Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 937. Peng Yuan tried to stay calm and tried to distract her. She had been kidnapped for so long. Those people should have noticed that her carriage had not followed them, right? As long as they could find this place, she would be safe. She thought that she was smart, but it was not worth mentioning in the eyes of this woman. Don't worry. Ordinary people won't be able to find this place. Since I was able to kidnap you, I'm confident that I can kill you here. As for who you have offended," she smiled, "isn't your heart as clear as a mirror?" Yes, Pang Yuan knew. The women she had tortured were either dead or disabled. None of them had come to take revenge on her. Only Shun Yueji. Shun Yueji? She thought that she had seen through Shun Yueji. She didn't expect that there was a force behind her. Moreover, this woman seemed to have a master behind her. She alone was able to capture her in the carriage of the royal family without batting an eyelid. Who knew how powerful the power behind her was? Mao Ran thought of an organization in the North Underworld. Shimming Sect? As soon as this answer appeared in her mind, she looked up and confirmed. "You are from the Shimming Sect? Yes, you are not too stupid. At least you know who wants to kill you." Pang Yuan retreated in fear. There were not many things in this world that she was afraid of, but the Shimming Sect was definitely one of them. It was an evil sect that she couldn't win over even if she wanted to. Ew. Imperial concubine Pang boasted that she had many talented people behind her. "Don't you know the relationship between our Holy Virgin and Miss Shun? And you, not only did you not respect Miss Shun, you even tried to frame her again and again." She smiled. Imperial concubine Pang really doesn't know what's good for you. She knew that the Shimming sect was an evil sect that was not afraid of any force or imperial power. Her identity as an imperial concubine of the North Underworld was not worth mentioning in her eyes. Even if she was the Empress Dowager, they wouldn't take her seriously, let alone an imperial concubine, because the power of the Shimming sect was comparable to that of the royal family. All this while, they had always minded their own business and lived in harmony with each other. Neither of them took the initiative to provoke the other. But Pang Yuan didn't expect things would turn out like this. I don't know. She didn't know that Shin Yueji was related to the Shimming sect. Although she had heard some rumors, she didn't take them to heart. She thought they were just rumors. After all, there was a huge disparity between the Shimming sect and the Feng Nation. Moreover, the Shimming sect belonged to the North Sea. How could they be related to a woman from the Feng Nation? Now, the doubts in his heart had been confirmed. It was indeed true. Pang Yuan was truly afraid of the Shimming sect because she had witnessed their cruel methods. She had also heard about their methods of torturing people and making them wish they were dead. Xiao Er's death was just an appetizer for them. Pang Yuan kept shaking her head. No, I don't know. I really don't know. If I had known that Shin Yueji and your Sanus were friends, I wouldn't have treated her like this. She did not want to become enemies with the Shimming sect. Even though she hated Shin Yueji to death, she had never thought of becoming enemies with the Shimming sect. To her, becoming enemies with the mystic dark sect was clearly courting death. Even if she hoped that Shin Yueji would die, she would also read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, the Prince Regent, messing with the Body Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 938. When the troops were about to enter the imperial city, they found that Pang Yuan's carriage had not followed them. And the concubine in the carriage behind Pang Yuan didn't tell CI and the others for a long time after knowing that Pang Yuan's carriage was missing. When they were told that Pang Yuan hadn't returned to the capital, they realized that something was wrong and went to inform CI and the emperor. Shin Yueji was resting. When she heard the report, she sat up slightly and looked at the indifferent man beside her. Pang Yuan is Grand Tutor Pang's only daughter after all. If anything happens to her outside the palace, I'm afraid you won't be able to explain it to Grand Tutor Pang. Seeing her wake up, Mo Wushang frowned slightly and gently rubbed her head. Did I wake you up? Why did she suddenly disappear? Shin Yueji and Pang Yuan weren't very familiar, but through these few days of competition, she more or less understood her character. She knew that she wouldn't run around at this time. Besides, how could the life outside the palace compare to the luxurious life in the palace? Secondly, she didn't know how much she wanted to kill herself now. If something like that happened to her during the Lantern Festival, anyone would run away, but she, Pang Yuan, wouldn't. Jichu, Your Majesty, send someone to find her. Yes, Your Majesty. Empress Dowager heard that Imperial Consort Pang disappeared and hasn't come back yet. She is very worried. At this time, Mother Zhu's worried voice came from outside. Shin Yueji lifted the curtain of the carriage. Sure enough, she saw Mother Zhu's worried face. Mother Zhu looked at her. Imperial Consort Pang is in the wrong, but she is Grand Tutor Pang's only daughter. I also hope that your majesty, I know. Mother Zhu, take Empress Dowager back to the palace first. I will order people to find Pang Yuan. Now that Imperial Consort Pang is missing, how can Empress Dowager return to the palace with peace of mind? Empress Dowager plans to order people to rest for a while. When Imperial Consort Pang is found, Empress Dowager plans to return to the palace. Seeing Ci-An's insistence, Mo Wushang didn't say anything more and nodded slightly. This time, they brought a lot of secret guards out of the palace. They quickly split up to look for her, from the Inn of the Lantern Festival to the surroundings along the way. In the dense crowd, torches could be seen everywhere. Do you think the disappearance of Imperial Consort Pang has something to do with Shin Yueji? He looked at the embroidered uniform hidden guards who were searching everywhere. The concubines in the carriage couldn't help but whisper to each other again. Although they didn't really like Pang Yuan, the disappearance of an imperial concubine was not a small matter. To be able to disappear under the noses of the Emperor and Empress Dowager, how powerful was this person? Could it be that Imperial Consort Yang Yang was driven off the carriage by the Empress Dowager and was so angry that she went somewhere else to relieve her boredom? How is this possible? She wanted to get rid of the woman from the Phone Kingdom. Not to mention the Empress Dowager kicking her off the carriage. Even if she was slapped in the carriage, she would not leave at this critical moment. What could be more important than getting rid of Shin Yueji? Actually, what she said was not without reason. As expected, after she said this, all the consorts fell into a short silence. That Imperial Consort Pang suddenly disappeared. Was she kidnapped? As soon as these words left his mouth, there was another period of silence. There was an 80 to 90% chance that it was a kidnapping, but they still couldn't believe it. After all, in the northern underworld, who didn't know Pang Yuan's identity, explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect it. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect it. Chapter 939. Her father was there, and Brimming was the imperial tutor. If they dared to kidnap Pang Yuan, wouldn't they be courting death? Even the women who had been harmed by Pang Yuan were afraid of Pang Yuan's identity. They didn't dare to speak up, nor did they dare to play tricks behind her back. It was enough to show that they were afraid of Pang Yuan to this extent. How would they dare to kidnap her? The only thing that could be explained was Shin Yueji. Women's suspicions were not random. If Shin Yueji is really that powerful, then Pang Yuan is no match for her at all. That's right. Although that woman is from the Phone Country, and I don't know much about her, I still know a little. I heard that her father is a first-rank general of the Phone Country. He has millions of soldiers and half of the power of the Phone Country. So powerful? No wonder she is not afraid of Imperial Consort Pang at all. Even when Imperial Consort Pang made things difficult for her many times, she didn't suffer at Imperial Consort Pang's hands. It seems, do you think Shin Yueji has a guilty conscience? Is what Imperial Consort Pang said true? I think so too. Otherwise, why would Imperial Consort Pang suddenly disappear tonight? It must have something to do with Shin Yueji. It can't be wrong. That's right. It seems that there will be a good show this time. We all think of that woman. How could the Empress Dowager and the Emperor not think of it? Imperial Tutor Pang loves his daughter as much as his life. If he knows that Pang Yuan's disappearance has something to do with Shin Yueji, he will definitely ask the Emperor and the Empress Dowager for an explanation. The Emperor and the Empress Dowager are worried about Imperial Tutor Pang. Shin Yueji will definitely fall out of favor. Falling out of favor is not that simple. If anything happens to Imperial Consort Pang, it will not be enough for Shin Yueji to fall out of favor. I'm afraid she will have to pay with her life. How do you know that this matter has something to do with Shin Yueji? Why don't you think that it's because Pang Yuan has offended too many people? Although those enemies don't dare to confront her directly or do anything to her, they might have already formed a gang behind her back, waiting for her to come out and die. In the face of Lu Qing's words, the incessant chatter suddenly stopped, and they just stared at Lu Qing for a long time. Little sister Qing, you speak up for Xin Yueji again and again. What benefits did Xin Yueji give you? You should know that she almost caused you to lose favor with the Empress Dowager. Hui Fei also looked at her. Lu Qing was a person of few words, but she had a straightforward personality and dared to take responsibility for her actions. For example, the fact that the CI and palace was able to confront Xin Yueji was within their expectations. But Hui Fei didn't expect that Lu Qing would change so much just because Xin Yueji spoke up for her. Qing Zhaoyi, I almost caused you to lose favor in front of the Empress Dowager. But you, just because of one sentence from me, you can forget about her. That's right, that's right. I thought you hated Xin Yueji in your heart. Who knew that you would actually speak up for her? Your dignity is truly worthless. Lu Qing's expression was unsightly. It was because they had led the topic to her and said that she wasn't the Empress Dowager. Lu Qing's face was green. She had endured the words along the way, but because of their complaints, she finally couldn't hold it in anymore. In the imperial harem, whenever something happens to a woman, you're more happy than anyone else. You can't wait for one more woman in the imperial harem to die. That way, you'll be happy and complacent. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect. Chapter 940. If it was in the past, she would never say these words to them. Among these people, there were some who were on good terms with her, and they often interacted with each other. In this harem, there was also a sisterhood that they had spent several years together. But today, outside CI and Palace, when she was scolded by Granny Zhu, what did they do? She found it funny. They just watched coldly. Previously, she had heard them talking about Xin Yueji, which made her think that the women from the Feng Nation were not good. Now, it seemed that it was not Xin Yueji who was bad, but she had been with them for a long time. She had almost forgotten that the scariest thing was the people around her. "Stop the carriage!" she suddenly shouted. The carriage stopped abruptly. When the women heard her shout for them to stop, they couldn't help but frown. "Qing Zhaoyi, what are you doing? You have to have a limit. We're going back to the palace." "What do you mean by shouting to stop the carriage?" Imperial Consort Pang's whereabouts are unknown. The Empress Dowager dotes on Imperial Consort Pang so much. If we can't find Imperial Consort Pang, I'm afraid the Empress Dowager and the Emperor will not return to the palace. Lu Qing looked at them coldly and then got off the carriage without saying anything. Really, what does this woman mean? Exactly. She usually looks easy to get along with. Who knows what she's doing today? Sister Yuer, don't be angry. You know how she is. Just ignore her, lest you get angry. Qing, in the haze, someone called her. Xin Yueji woke up from her half-asleep state. Mo Wushang had already gotten off the carriage and went to the Empress Dowager. She was the only one left in the huge carriage. Hearing this familiar female voice, she was startled. Sure enough, in the next moment, a piece of clothing was draped over her body. She looked up and saw Lu Qingrou's gentle and clean face. "Look at you. Why are you still the same as before? You don't even put on a coat when you are asleep." Speaking of this, her eyes darkened. "Doesn't that man love you a lot? You don't even do something so considerate." "He covered me with a coat, but I took it away because I was too hot." "Qingru, why are you here? If I hadn't come, you would never have thought of me, would you?" Her sudden appearance tonight was a surprise to Xin Yueji. What was surprising was that when something happened to Pang Yuan tonight, she had suddenly appeared. This made it hard for her not to suspect that she was behind this. Lu Qingru looked her in the eye, and as if she could see something in her eyes, she smiled faintly. "Qing, it's me." She reached out, wanted to touch her face. However, Xin Yueji moved her head away slightly. Her hand hung in the air, but she didn't feel embarrassed at all. Even the smile on her face was still there. She had always been so tolerant towards the person she liked. On the contrary, Xin Yueji, who was throwing a tantrum, was very likable in her eyes. She found a place very close to Xin Yueji and sat down. Xin Yueji frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. I'll let the right protector kill her. His words revealed the suspicions in her heart, but she didn't say them out loud. Yueji was surprised and looked up at her. Now, I'm afraid that she has been tortured to the point that only a pile of minced meat is left. She bullied you so much. Actually, I should have killed her long ago. That way, she wouldn't have the chance to bully you. It's just that there are too many things to take care of in the Xiaming sect recently. I just went back, so I need to take care of a lot of things. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect it. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect it. Chapter 941. Her hand slowly reached out to her and held her hand. Yueji suddenly had a strange feeling in her heart. This feeling made her want to resist. She could see that she was struggling. Lu Qingru not only held her hand tightly, but a sharp light flashed across her eyes. We haven't seen each other for only a few days. Have we become so distant already? In the end, Yueji pulled her hand out of Lu Qingru's hand. She closed her eyes slightly and said in a disappointed voice, Qingru, I still remember and dare not forget how you helped me before. If there comes a day when you need my help, even if it's a mountain of knives or a sea of fire, I'm willing to go for you. Now, I have my own thoughts and ideas. You don't have to do these things for me anymore. Pang Yuan is no threat to me at all. On the contrary, she killed Pang Yuan just like that. It was obvious that she was splashing dirty water on her. In Feng Jiuqing, she also said that she would not hide it from her or lie to her anymore. But she still lied to her. Can't you see? The reason why I killed Pang Yuan was to take you away. The Dark North Palace is not suitable for you. I know that you have never liked the life in the palace. To you, the palace is like a cage. You should live outside. My Xiaming sect doesn't have so many rules. If you want to travel the world, I'll accompany you. No matter where you go, I'll go with you. Qingru, I told you long ago that I treat you as a friend. You and I are both women, so it's impossible. Yueji's face turned cold, especially when she saw the woman's expectant and careful face that was filled with love. She felt inexplicably disgusted. Back then, when she was with her, she didn't know what she was thinking. She simply thought that she treated her as a friend, and she treated her the same way. That was because she never imagined that she would like her. If it wasn't for the current situation, she would have gotten off the carriage long ago. Now, just sitting in the same carriage with her and feeling the adoration in her eyes was full of great irony. She used to think that they were best friends. You're rejecting me? How dare you reject me? In the past, you would never reject me. No matter what I said, you would listen and respond to me with a smile. Do you also feel disgusted that I like you? She climbed onto the woman's shoulders and questioned her sternly. Her face changed color. Tell me, is it wrong for me to like you? I've liked you for so many years. You can choose not to accept me. I can wait for you, but why did you accept others? Do you know how much my heart ached when I found out that you slept with that man? At that time, I couldn't wait to storm into the palace from the Xiaming sect and snatch you back. You're mine. In this life, you can only be mine. I can't see you with another man. That man once hurt you so deeply, and even when you died, he was indifferent. Haven't you suffered enough because of Feng Jiuqing? Why do you want to try it on another man? Why can't you understand? In this world, I'm the only one who treats you sincerely. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect it. Explosively cute pet concubine. Prince Regent, please collect it. Chapter 942. The reason why I'm willing to stay in Feng country is also because of you. I hate men so much, but I still have affairs with so many men, and it's also because of you. I hate Feng Jiuqing so much that I want to eat his flesh and drink his blood, but in the end, I still slept with him because of you. You can't be so heartless to me. Do you know that? You can't be so heartless to me. Blue veins appeared on her forehead because of her forbearance. Yueji closed her eyes and used all her strength to push her away. Lu Qingru, what else do you want? I've already said it clearly enough. I can only be friends with you, and definitely can't take it any further. I'm a normal person. Do you understand? Normal? Lu Qingru staggered a step back and looked at her while murmuring. Suddenly, she laughed. Normal? Excellent. Do you think that I'm not a normal woman? If Shun Yueji could predict everything, the only thing she couldn't predict was Lu Qingru. Do you think that man will still be on your side? Grand Tutor Pang is a great, loyal minister of the Northern Underworld, and Pang Yuan's disappearance, almost everyone will point the spearhead to you. Do you think that Mo Wushang can still protect you? Or do you really think that he can disregard everything for you? Even the empire of the Northern Underworld. For you? Don't be silly. Ex-Anchor, don't you know? In a man's heart, women are like clothes. They only care about their own empire. Feng Jiuqing is like this, and so is he. You've suffered enough at Feng Jiuqing's hands. How trustworthy can a man's oath of undying love be? Xin Yueji closed her eyes slightly. Leave. No matter what you say, I won't leave with you. What if he... Who? Feng Jiuqing. Didn't you meet him? Lu Qingru smiled coldly and looked at her with a pale face, full of sarcasm. Didn't he tell you that he doesn't have much time left? What did you say? Xin Yueji suddenly turned her head to look at her. The resurrection parasite is a forbidden item of our Xianming sect. The user can split a person's body and soul into two. Aren't all of you curious about how Feng Jiuqing appeared here when he was seriously injured and unconscious? Xin Yueji's face was filled with shock as she stared at her in disbelief. Then, the Feng Jiuqing who came to look for her today was the one who had been with her day and night. The one who had pledged undying love to her? He didn't lie to me? In fact, Xin Yueji had always thought that he was lying to her. Perhaps this was another trick of his, because she did not see his scarlet eyes. Ekner, speaking of which, I quite admire him. He originally had a very long lifespan, but he ended up sacrificing so much of his lifespan for you. 3 months. There were only 3 months left before he would completely disappear from this world. You know the truth of what happened back then. You know that the person who betrayed you back then was not him. You also know his difficulties. Are you going to watch him die without doing anything? Why? Why would it be like this time? Xin Yueji could no longer maintain her composure. It was clearly Feng Jiuqing who told her that he would take her away to a place that they would never find. In this lifetime, he would never leave her again. He said so. He did not say it all. He did not say that he only had 3 months left to live. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, The Regent, Messing with the Body Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 943. Not at all. Do you feel sorry for him? Back then, you loved him so much that you were even willing to die for him. I've been by your side for so long, and I've witnessed your love for him with my own eyes. I've seen it all along the way. Mo Wushang is good to you, but Feng Jiuqing is the man you've loved for so many years, isn't he? Come with me. Even if you don't want to go with me, you have to think about that man. He'll be gone in 3 months. He's done so much for you. Is your heart really that hard? If it was in the past, Lu Qingru would never say these things to her. To her, Feng Jiuqing's life or death was not worth mentioning. She naturally hoped that he was dead. As long as he was dead, would belong to her completely. Not only that, she hoped that Mo Wushang would die. After returning to the North Sea and knowing about her and Mo Wushang, she didn't hate Feng Jiuqing as much, because she knew that there would no longer be anything between her and that man. Feng Jiuqing had already become her past. Even if he had his own difficulties back then, it didn't matter anymore. As he wished, he saw a flash of pain on Shun Yueji's face. In your heart, you still care about Feng Jiuqing, don't you? Don't lie to yourself anymore. Come with me and accompany him for the last 3 months. Okay? Why are you telling me this? Lu Qingru, do you really want me to go with you? Don't force me. I don't want to hurt you. Why do you always force me? Lu Qingru clenched her fists and stared at her fiercely. Why don't you listen? I don't want to hurt you. I really don't. I just want to protect you. You just need to stay by my side obediently. You don't need to do anything. Let me love you. I'll settle everything for you." Before she could finish her sentence, she was slapped hard on the face. Lu Qingru covered her face and looked at her. She suddenly laughed. "You hit me? Do you know? This is the first time you've hit me since we've known each other for so long." "Enough." "Enough? How is that possible?" Lu Qingru's eyes reddened as she gripped her shoulders tightly, not allowing her to struggle in the slightest. No matter what you think in your heart, I will let you see my heart clearly. Rather than going along with you and letting you do as you please, why should I care so much about it? I'll just snatch you over and imprison you by my side. You must remember that you forced me to do all of this. If you had been obedient from the beginning and followed me back to the Xinming sect, none of this would have happened. Lu Qingru, what I owe you, I will never be able to repay you in this lifetime. But if you want me to accept you, don't even think about it in this lifetime. Unless I die. You're really naive. How could I bear to let you die? Even if I kill everyone in the world, I won't let them harm a single hair on your head. If you're not obedient, I can only make a move on the people around you. Those people from the Shin family, I think you will not ignore their life and death, right?" Her heart clenched fiercely. Shin Yueji had long been on guard against her. The Shun family was her weakness, and they had sacrificed so much for her. How could she let them suffer any harm because of her? She had promised them that as long as she was here, she would let the Shin family live a worry-free life. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, The Regent, Provoking the Body Claw Book House for free. Chapter 944. Lu Qingru, don't force me. You're the one who's forcing me. Why didn't you wait for me? Do you know? Do you know that when I found out that you and Mo Wushang were in the same room, I wanted to die? Do you know that I was so angry that I vomited blood and almost died? Do you know how much I love you? What did you do to the Shun family? Nothing much. It was just that when the Shun family was on their way to the northern underworld, I kidnapped them. Coincidentally, a man who liked you appeared out of nowhere and made me very displeased with him. So I broke one of his arms. What did you say? Her breathing seemed to stop at that moment. Shengwan Yu? Almost instantly, this man's name appeared in Shun Yueji's heart. He came together with the Shin family. If Lu Qingru cared about her opinion and did not kill the Shin family, then Shengwan Yu. She suddenly stepped forward and grabbed the woman's collar with one hand. What did you do to Shengwan Yu? A mere Shengwan Yu, such an insignificant man who isn't even worth mentioning, can make you so nervous? Lu Qingru wanted to laugh at herself. You care so much for others. Why are you so heartless to me? Holding Shun Yueji's hand, Lu Qingru's palm trembled. Didn't I say it just now? I cut off one of his arms. If you don't listen, I'll cut off his head. You dare. Qingru, I don't want to make you sad. As long as you're willing to follow me obediently, I'll let them go and chase them far away. From today onwards, you only need to promise me that you won't have any dealings with them, and I won't cause any trouble for them. Is that okay? Lu Qingru, you keep saying that you're doing this for my own good, but in the end, you hid it from me, harmed my family, and used the lives of my family and friends to threaten me. Is this what you mean by doing this for my own good? At least from the beginning to the end, the only person he wanted to kill was me. He is not like you, full of schemes, vicious to force me to submit, and hurt the people around me. Shin Yueji's eyes were red, and she looked at her with a smile. If I had known that the friend I thought I was infallible and made would have such filthy and disgusting thoughts about me, I would rather not know you in this life. She suddenly pulled out the hairpin from her bun. Lu Qingru jumped in fright, and her voice was heavily trembling. Put down the hairpin. Don't act recklessly. I won't allow you to mess around. Think about those people from the Shin family. If you dare to harm yourself, I will definitely make them die, without a complete corpse. Lu Qingru, let them go. As long as you let them go, I promise to go with you. If you dare to harm even a strand of their hair, do you believe that I will die in front of you right now? The first part of her words made Lu Qingru full of joy, but Shin Yueji's words made her quickly put on a serious face, and she nodded hurriedly. Okay, Qiner, put down the hairpin. I will let the left protector let them go. My Xinming sect has the best doctor. Don't worry. Although Shangwan, you lost an arm. He will not die. I will let the doctor bandage his wound. Don't worry. Be good. Put down the hairpin. After listening to her promise, Shin Yueji slowly put down the hairpin. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, Prince Regent, Provoking Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 945. Seeing this, Lu Qingru was overjoyed. She quickly stepped forward and hugged her. Don't scare me anymore. I've already lost you once. I can't lose you a second time. Don't scare me anymore, okay? Okay. As long as you're willing to go with me, I'll definitely treat you well. In this life, I won't allow anyone to hurt you. Shin Yueji's body stiffened as she was held in her arms. Lu Qingru's hug was like a warm gaze to her in the past. She was the only light in the darkness. But now it was no longer a simple hug. It was like a beast from a bottomless abyss, devouring her until there was nothing left. Originally, she thought that after her rebirth, she would never be threatened or coerced again. But for the Shin couple, she could only choose to compromise. She knew that if she did not promise Lu Qingru, she would be given the Shun couple's corpses. Xinming sect, an evil sect that could compete with the three great countries. She did not doubt the truth of Lu Qingru's words at all. Double happiness brought something up. When she saw Lu Qingru, she was stunned for a moment. Lu Qingru's gaze fell on Shin Yueji. She did not look at her at all. Go down first. I have something to say to Double Happiness alone. Okay. If Xian has anything to say, just tell her. I'll wait for you downstairs. Miss? Double Happiness was suspicious. She vaguely felt that something was wrong, but she did not know what was wrong. She could only look at Shin Yueji with a puzzled expression. Until Lu Qingru went down. Only then did she look at Shin Yueji. Miss? What's wrong? Why is Concubine Ro here? And the way she looked at Miss just now, it was like a man looking at a woman he liked. It made her feel inexplicably. She could not describe that feeling. Because Lu Qingru was a woman, she did not think in that direction. Lu Qingru kidnapped father and mother. What? Double Happiness was shocked. No wonder the general and madam's letter came so early. But they had not met Miss yet. So it was because, not only that, she also broke Shangwan Yu's arm. Compared to Lu Qingru kidnapping the general and madam, what shocked Double Happiness even more was that she had actually cut off young Master Shangwan's arm. Young Master Shangwan doesn't have any enemies. He's a kind person and has never offended anyone. Even if Lu Qingru had stayed in the Feng Nation for a period of time, but young Master Shangwan and Lu Qingru didn't have any interactions. Why would she treat young Master Shangwan like this, and even kidnap the general and his wife? Miss? She looked at Shin Yueji in confusion. Shin Yueji shook her head. Don't ask anymore. I'll go with her. Miss? Where are you going? Go with Lu Qingru? This servant doesn't even know what happened. Before young Miss came to the northern underworld, Madam and the general repeatedly told me to look after young Miss and not allow anything to happen to young Mississippi young Miss. Even if Miss has her own difficulties and isn't willing to tell this servant. But Miss, aren't you going to tell the son-in-law? The son-in-law is the emperor of the northern underworld. He will definitely have a way. Also, Miss, where are you going with Lu Qingru? She has already kidnapped the general and the madam. If you want to leave with her, Miss, please take this servant with you. At least take this servant with you. This servant will know your movements, Miss. Baidu read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, the Prince Regent, Messing with the Body Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 946. You will be in danger if you follow me. Right now, I can't even guarantee the safety of father and mother, let alone you. Double Happiness, you stay. No, Miss. Have you forgotten what you promised this servant before? You said that no matter where you go, you will let me follow you. Miss, Is that Lu Qingru good or bad? She was so good to you before, but when you were poisoned, she was more worried and nervous than anyone else, as if the person who was poisoned was herself. She didn't know how she became like this. Shin Yueji shook her head. She didn't know how to explain it to Double Happiness. Just thinking about it in her mind made her feel disgusted, let alone saying it in front of Double Happiness. But according to Double Happiness's character, she also knew that if she didn't give her an explanation, she would definitely not let her leave with Lu Qingru. In this world, people are different. For example, I treat Lu Qingru as my friend, but she didn't finish the rest of her words. No need to ask anymore. This matter ends here. Double Happiness, no matter what, I will not take you away. She is no longer the Lu Qingru of the past. Xianming sect is an evil sect in the pugilistic world. They are ruthless and have countless cruel methods. I can't let you take the risk. Although Shin Yueji didn't finish her words, Double Happiness was a smart person after all. She quickly guessed what she didn't say. At first, she also felt that Lu Qingru's feelings for her miss was strange, but as a servant, she didn't dare to ask, especially since both of them were women. She only thought that Lu Qingru was good to her miss because they grew up together, but she didn't think, miss, if that's really the case, then this servant really can't let you go like this. That pervert Lu Qingru, who knows what she will do to you. No, miss, this servant has to follow you. No matter where you go, this servant has to follow you. Stay in the palace. I need you to help me refute the rumors. Shin Yueji looked at her. Lu Qingru is determined to take me away. When the time comes, once Pang Yuan's corpse is discovered by them, and I disappear at this time, all the spearheads will be pointed at me. If I disappear because of this, and you disappear with me, even 100 mouths won't be able to explain it clearly. I need you to stay. This is also good for Mo Wushang. He will no longer have to face the mouths of those ministers alone. And you, with you by his side, you are the maid I brought from the Feng Nation. You have the same status as me, and you play an important role in the northern underworld. As long as you are here, at least when Mo Wushang faces them, he will have something to say, and he will no longer be alone and helpless. But miss, this servant is worried about you. Shuangxi knew that no matter what miss did, she would always have a backup plan. She also knew that at this time, the young miss must have her own thoughts. The so-called following Lu Qingru was only a temporary plan. Shin Yueji gently stroked her hair. Shuangxi, what should come will come sooner or later. It's not that I can rest easy just because the Gu family is dead. The Xianming sect, Shengwan Mei, and many more people. Looking at Shuangxi, Shin Yueji pursed her lips. My life and death have long been out of my consideration. Now, the only thing I don't want is for those who sincerely treat me well to be implicated by me. Chapter 947. Lu Qingru is right. When I found out that Feng Jiuqing doesn't have much time left, I felt very sad. I thought I had let go of everything, but in the end, my heart still hurts. She knew that her feelings for Feng Jiuqing were no longer love. This love had long disappeared with her death. She was just not reconciled. She was not reconciled to the fact that the two of them loved each other deeply. In the end, fate made a fool out of them, and they were destined to never be together. Qin, we should go. Otherwise, they will notice the commotion here. All the secret guards in the palace went to search for Pang Yuan. Basically, there were only a few people left here. Even Mo Wushang's personal bodyguards were sent to search for Pang Yuan without her permission. This time, Shuangxi's gaze towards Lu Qingru was filled with hostility. When she saw the young mistress getting up and walking towards her, she blocked her way and glared fiercely at Lu Qingru. Even if you are the saintess of the Xianming sect, I'm warning you, I'm not afraid of you. You better not do anything to my Mississippi otherwise. I will not let you off easily. Even Mo Wushang and Lu Qingru were not in her eyes. She was just a servant of Shin Yueji. Her affectionate and loving gaze fell on Shin Yueji, never moving away. In this world, only I will not hurt Qin. I will treat her well. If it had been a man, perhaps Double Happiness would have been moved for a while. However, the one who said this was a woman. Moreover, It was a woman who held the general and his wife hostage and forced the young miss to submit. She didn't know how disgusted she was, let alone the young miss. Let's go. I did not bring many people. When they return, I will not be able to take you away. Before leaving, Shin Yueji looked at double happiness behind her. You have been with me for a long time. I think you know how to deal with things. My disappearance will definitely attract the suspicion of others. You just need to calm down and don't panic. Mo Wushang will also protect you. Do you understand? Miss, double happiness looked at her with heartache. Miss was pitiful enough in the past. She thought that after following the general and master, Madam would treat Miss well. But unexpectedly, Qin who she hated the most, looked at others so gently, but when she looked at her, she was so cold. This was something that had never happened before. Lu Qingru stepped forward and grabbed her hand. Qin we should go. Shin Yueji shook off her hand in disgust. I can walk by myself. It was a narrow carriage that could only fit 2 people. The coffee table was filled with all kinds of jewelry and food. Although the jewelry was small, each one of them was priceless. Just by looking at the workmanship, it was obvious that they were not cheap. The moment they got on the carriage, Lu Qingru pushed all the things on the table towards her with a smile on her face. Qin quickly take a look. These are all the treasures of my Xianming cult. I know that you don't really like gold and silver jewelry. These things are small and exquisite, and the workmanship is superb and perfect. It's different from ordinary jewelry. Moreover, it will definitely look good on you. The mysterious dark church has a lot of jewelry like this. If you like it, these things will belong to you in the future. I'll keep them all for you. What do you think? No matter how good the jewelry is, it's still an inanimate object. Lu Qingru, you are a woman. You are not destined to become a man. These jewelry are used by men to please women. You don't have to spend so much effort to please me. You may not have this understanding, but I do. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, Prince Regent, Provoking Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 948. Lu Qingru was not angry at all, even though Shin Yueji made it very clear and left her no way out. There was no anger on her face. Instead, she said to her with tolerance and happiness, "Looks like Qin doesn't like it. It's fine. When you come back to Xianming's sect with me, no matter what you like, as long as it's something you like, I will definitely ask them to find it for you." She felt that it was ridiculous, so Shin Yueji flipped all the jewelry on the table in front of her. The jewelry fell all over the ground, and there were even some on the ground. Many of the jewelry spilled outside and out of the carriage. The driver outside saw the jewelry spilled and called out worriedly, "Sanus, focus on your carriage. Qin is throwing a tantrum with me." After she finished speaking, she turned around. She was like a newlywed, infinitely tolerant and indulgent towards the woman he liked. She bent down to pick up the jewelry that fell on the ground and put it aside. Qin didn't like it. She had also lost her patience with these expensive and rare jewelry. Since Qin doesn't like these jewelry and hasn't eaten anything for a day, these are your favorite dishes and snacks in Phone Country. Try them and see if they taste the same as the ones in Phone Country. I brought those chefs from Phone Country. If they don't taste good, I will ask them to make them again. Of course, if they don't suit your taste, I can get new chefs. What about those chefs from before? If they can't make the dishes I like, are you going to kill them all? Seeing that her thoughts were exposed, Lu Qingru smiled. Qin you really do understand me. If the dishes they make are not to your taste, why would I keep them? Xianming's sect never keeps men, let alone those who eat for nothing and have no skills. If you were an emperor, you would definitely be a tyrant. For you, I am willing to be a tyrant. Unfortunately, if you were a man, I might be tempted. But you are a woman. Qin one day, you will know that in your eyes, men and women are the same. What men can give you, I can give you. What men can't give you, I can also give you. Lightly caressing her face, Lu Qingru faintly smiled. I believe that that day is not far away. I'm going to return to the inn to see Feng Jiuqing. Sure. You agreed so quickly? To be honest, Shin Yueji was quite surprised to hear her agree so quickly. Lu Qingru smiled gently. He's just a man who's about to die. Moreover, he's already long gone from your heart. So why would I bother with someone who's about to die? Conversely, I have to thank him. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid you, wouldn't have been willing to leave with me. Release the Shun family. That's impossible. Why? I'm not a fool. The reason you're willing to follow me back to the mysterious dark sect obediently is because I'm holding them hostage, and you have no other choice. If even this final trump card of mine were to listen to you and release them, would you still obediently return to the mysterious dark sect with me? Didn't you say that you trust me the most? No matter what I say, you will believe it. But now, Baidu. Chapter 949. Lu Qingru smiled and murmured, I believe you now, but it's different now. I have my own judgment on some things. Don't worry, I won't do anything to the Shin family. As long as you stay by my side obediently and let me love you, I promise they won't have to worry. The Shin family is righteous, and your Xianming sect has killed countless people. Letting them stay in the Xianming sect is like smearing their dirty blood on their bodies. Lu Qingru, don't worry, they won't stay for long. This is all up to you. As long as you don't think of running away, I won't do anything to them. Believe me, I've always been this indulgent towards you. Nothing is more important than you staying by my side. Even if the people I let go or offend are my future enemies, as long as you say the word, I won't do anything to them. Sooner or later, you'll regret it. As long as you're by my side, I won't regret it for the rest of my life. As they spoke, they quickly arrived at the inn from before. It was already late at night. Because of the news of Pang Yuan's disappearance, there was no one on the road at this time. Even the candles in the inn were extinguished. Shin Yueji was about to lift the curtain of the carriage and get down. A white hand blocked her way down. She turned around and glanced at Lu Qingru. I'll let the right protector bring him back to the Xianming sect. Bring him back to the Xianming sect? I can only feel at ease when you're by my side. I've always been tolerant towards you, but at the same time, I'm also narrow-minded. Even if he doesn't have much time left, I won't let you be alone with him for the next 3 months. I'll let the right protector bring him back to the Xianming sect and let you talk to him there. Right protector? Yes. I want to see him first. Sure. It just so happens that I have something to do at this time. Be good and wait for me to come back. Lu Qingru's departure was undoubtedly not good for Shin Yueji. She didn't have any expression on her face, but in her heart, she couldn't wait for Lu Qingru to leave. As if seeing through her inner thoughts, Lu Qingru smiled slightly, but didn't say anything. She turned around and got off the carriage. Not long after, Shin Yueji also got off. The right protector had met him once in the Feng Nation. She was still respectful to her. Young Lady Shin, please follow this subordinate. What? Aren't you afraid that your master will be in danger if you don't follow her when she goes out to handle some matters? Compared to the Holy Maiden's danger, I'm sure that in the Holy Maiden's eyes, Miss Shin's danger is more important than the Holy Maiden's. Don't worry, Miss Shin, the saintess won't be in danger. Whether Lu Qingru was in danger or not, to be honest, she really didn't want to care. She had long since lost the innocent friendship she once had with Lu Qingru. She only knew that under the premise that Lu Qingru treated her well, she actually had this kind of dirty motive. Now, in order to force her to submit, they even used her closest kin to threaten her. Previously, because of her complicated feelings, Shin Yueji did not remember which room she had come out from. It was only with the guidance of the right protector that she found the previous room. He was about to push the door open. He heard a series of heart-wrenching coughs coming from inside. She felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. He pushed the door open and entered. The man did not expect the door to be pushed open at this time. When he raised his head, his gaze met Shin Yueji's. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, The Prince Regent, Provoking the Body Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 950. On his pale and handsome face, there was a flash of surprise, followed by joy. But this joy did not last long. She saw him take out a handkerchief to wipe the blood at the corner of his mouth and bury the dark red blood in the handkerchief. Qin. He called her name in a weak voice. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Xin Yueji quickly walked in front of him and looked at his pale face. Why didn't you tell me? You made a deal with Lu Qingru? Feng Jiuqing looked at her with a pale face and suddenly smiled. His smile was as gentle as before. When he smiled, it was as warm as the spring breeze in March. Xin Yueji's eyes were in a trance as she looked at this familiar and strange face. In the past, she could have nothing, whether it was the family she longed for or other things. When she felt that she was abandoned by the world, it was Feng Jiuqing who gave her the only light. Because I know that you and I can never go back to the past. The man smiled gently, caressing her beautiful face. To be able to know that you are doing very well, I am already very satisfied. Qiner, even if you die, you have no regrets. Actually, how could he be satisfied? All along, this man was not a person who knew how to be satisfied. The only thing he was satisfied with was the woman in front of him. The woman he loved for a lifetime. He once swore in his heart that he would love her for a lifetime, but in the end, heavens will play tricks on people. Feng Jiuqing, you don't owe me anything. The person who really owes me is him, not you. Whether it is you or him, I have already let it go. You don't have to do this. Xin Yueji's expression was complicated. Lu Qingru wants to bring you back to Xianming's sect. But for me, it doesn't matter where I go as long as... He looked at Xin Yueji and moved his lips, but in the end, he did not say anything. Right Protector was outside the door, but she was observing every movement inside. When she heard the voice inside suddenly stopped, she frowned and looked inside. Suddenly, shwa! A cold light flashed in front of her. Fortunately, she reacted in time, but she was still hit by a black ball in the face. At first, she did not feel anything until a strange feeling came from her face. That painful and itchy feeling made her quickly put down the sword in her hand and scratch her face. But then, the strange feeling became more and more intense, as if thousands of insects were biting and gnawing at her face. At that moment, she was in so much pain that she wanted to die. She covered her face and squatted on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. She kept sucking in a breath of cold air and covered her face until a strong black eagle appeared in front of her. She raised her head and looked up. When she saw Qiu Yang's indifferent face, she was stunned. She gritted her teeth fiercely and endured the intense pain on her face. Her dangerous gaze was like a sharp sword. She could not wait to cut the person in front of her into 1,000 pieces. Qiu Yang, how dare you? If it weren't for Xin Yueji, the saintess wouldn't have cooperated with them at all. It was precisely because they had nothing to guard against. A dying person had nothing, so she let down her guard against them. But she didn't expect that they would play dirty behind her back. Qiu Yang was Feng Jiuqing's trusted guard. If it wasn't for Feng Jiuqing's permission, he wouldn't have dared to do anything to her. The corpse-dissolving powder of the martial world is only used by evil sects like you. I believe you know it better than anyone else, right? Qiu Yang's face was cold as he bent down in front of her. He saw that her face was already rotten because of the corpse-dissolving powder. She was struggling on the ground because of the pain. In this world, only my master can use others. There are few people who dare to treat my master like a fish on an iron plate. He sneered, Xianming cult? The Right Protector's eyes were red from the pain. He glared at him fiercely. Qiu Yang, Feng Jiuqing has taken our Xianming cult's resurrection goo. There is less than 3 months. Within these 3 months, he will experience a pain that others will not be able to experience. If you are obedient, perhaps the saintess can let your master not suffer so much pain and torture before he dies. Cough, cough. After saying so much in one breath, the Right Protector suddenly coughed violently. Huh? After saying so much in one breath, the Right Protector suddenly coughed violently. Now, my master is already like a walking corpse. What is pain to him? Other than forcing and threatening people, how can your Xianming cult understand these principles? Have a good taste of the evil you have sown? Ah, the right protector suddenly raised his head and let out a sharp scream. Hearing the scream outside, Shin Yueji was shocked. She subconsciously stood up and wanted to go outside. Cheener, the man stood up with her. He grabbed her hand and held her in his arms. Don't go. Don't dirty my eyes with filthy things. What did you do to her? Don't worry. General Shin and the others are fine. I have already ordered Xiao Yang to settle them in a safe place. He lightly touched the tip of the girl's nose. Cheener, this is the only thing I can do for you. Her eyes were red and tears were flowing. What about you? The resurrection goo of the Xianming cult is a poisonous thing. What good will it do for you to fall out with Lu Qingru at this time? The good is, the man's pale chin was placed on the girl's forehead. Hello, everything I have done is worth it. In the forest at that time, after returning, Shin Yueji was not found. Mo Wushang also ordered people to search for double happiness for a long time. Your Majesty, looking at Mo Wushang's emotionless face, double happiness felt fear for the first time. Miss Shi. Miss was taken away by Lu Qingru. Lu Qingru Shi. I have always granted Qin every request. If it wasn't for her request, why would I force her to take her away? A sarcastic female voice came from afar. Then, she slowly landed in front of the man. Lu Qingru's beautiful face was even more eye-catching than when she was in Feng Nation. Mo Wushang, let's talk. Young master, it's this woman. It's her. Ah, with a scream, double happiness did not have time to finish her words. As the woman suddenly raised her hand, her whole body flew out uncontrollably. She fell from midair. If it wasn't for Ji Chu suddenly appearing and catching her firmly, falling from such a high place, even if she did not fall to her death, she would still be half crippled. Double happiness is Miss Shun's trusted servant. Is it Miss Shun's tacit consent to hurt her? Hong Fui sneered and appeared in front of Lu Qingru. In addition, there were also some embroidered secret guards with high martial arts skills surrounding her. But Lu Qingru was not afraid at all. Instead, she looked at Mo Wushang. Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, Regent, Provoking Body Claw Book House for free. Chapter 951. I'm here to talk to you. If you want to fight, I'm more than happy to oblige. The Imperial Court and the Dark North sect are evenly matched. If we really fight, I don't think the Dark North Imperial family will be a match for the Xianming sect. Where is Ji-er? The man's voice was cold. His handsome face was as cold as ice. Compared to Feng Jiuqing, Lu Qingru had always felt a sense of resistance and fear towards Mo Wushang. But now that she had the mysterious dark sect behind her, even though her fear towards him had dissipated a little, it still remained. The man in front of her was definitely more dangerous than Feng Jiuqing, and he was definitely a threat to her. If you want to know Qin-er's whereabouts, follow me obediently. As soon as she finished speaking, she leaped up and disappeared into the darkness. Your Majesty! When Ji Chu saw that he was going to leave with Lu Qingru regardless of anything else, he hesitantly stopped him. Your Majesty, the people of Xianming sect are ruthless, sinister, and cunning. If you follow her, that's right. What if there is an ambush set up at the place she is going to deal with you? We'll go with you. We haven't found Imperial Consort Pang yet. If your Majesty leaves at this time, Mo Wushang didn't even look at the people who tried to dissuade him. He said coldly, in this world besides her, no one can kill me. He followed Lu Qingru all the way to a forest overgrown with weeds. As soon as Mo Wushang arrived, he smelled the smell of blood. Obviously, there had been a fierce battle here, but Mo Wushang wasn't worried. The smell of blood was related to Shin Yueji. If it was someone else, they would have panicked after smelling the blood. Aren't you worried at all? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill her? Would you? That's right, I won't. I'll kill anyone in this world except for her. Lu Qingru's eyes suddenly burst into laughter. How could this filthy smell of blood possibly belong to Qin-er? This is the blood of that bitch, Pang Yuan. Those people were all looking for Pang Yuan's whereabouts. But Mo Wushang's face remained expressionless even when he found out about Pang Yuan's whereabouts. Even when she said that the blood came from her body, there was no change in his expression. It was as though he was listening to the life and death of a stranger. Feng Jiuqing came all the way from the Feng Nation for Qin Dark North. Mo Wushang, Pang Yuan wasn't lying to you. The man in the inn tonight was Feng Jiuqing. On the day that Qin left, she was indeed with a wild man. She spent the entire day with Feng Jiuqing, and they shared their feelings inside. She accurately captured the sharp blade that flashed past the man's dark eyes. Lu Qingru smiled even more proudly. She took a step forward and circled around the man. You've liked Qin for so many years, and I admit that Qin has agreed to be with you now. But she already knows the truth back then. She knows that Feng Jiuqing had his own difficulties, and she knows that there are two souls living in his body. She also knows that Feng Jiuqing's promise to her has never changed, and his feelings for her have never changed. For her, he even disregarded his lifespan and was willing to sacrifice his last 3 months just to be with her. Do you think that Qin wouldn't be touched by such a sacrifice? At the end of the day, how can the two of us compare to the weight of Feng Jiuqing in her heart? He's the man she's loved for so many years, especially when all the misunderstandings from back then have collapsed. Mo Wushang, on what basis do you still believe that Guyue Qin will choose to be with you? Don't be silly. The person that Qin truly likes has always been Feng Jiuqing. She has never loved you. She's only willing to come to the Dark North with you because she's doing it for her own good. Shut up. Nothing could provoke him more than hearing that the woman he loved didn't love him and was with another man instead. All along, Mo Wushang knew that he couldn't feel Xin Yueji's love for him, but he never regretted it. He only wanted to be good to her, and he knew that one day, Qin would accept him. Today, it was the best response. But when she heard that Feng Jiuqing came to the Dark North and heard what he did for Xin Yueji, Lu Qingru was right. That was the man she loved for so many years. After learning of his difficulties and the sacrifices he had made, she knew of his feelings for her. She knew that his feelings for her had always been real and had never changed. Mo Wushang, don't you love Qin very much? Then why can't you let go and let them be? The person that Qin loves is Feng Jiuqing, and you're just doing it for her own good. Now that she and Feng Jiuqing have already buried the hatchet and stayed in the room for an entire day, what will happen during this day and what they will do inside, I'm sure you know without me saying much, right? Bang! A swift and fierce palm wind suddenly struck towards her. Lu Qingru seemed to have expected it, but she didn't dodge at all and took the hit head-on. Then, her thin body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Dark red blood spurted out from the corner of her mouth, and she used her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth. What are you angry about? Didn't you say that you loved her the most? You're also one of the people who caused her death. Compared to that, what do you think your later sacrifice is? You really can't compare to Feng Jiuqing. Every word that Lu Qingru said was like a gem, and it was like a knife was ruthlessly carved into his heart. He was covered with cuts and bruises, and it was so painful that he couldn't breathe. Where is she? Where? Naturally, she's with Feng Jiuqing. Compared to you, I'm more willing to see her with that man. At least, when they're together, Qin's smile is sincere, and no longer a perfunctory smile. Lu Qingru continued to provoke him fearlessly. In terms of martial arts, she wasn't Mo Wushang's opponent at all, so she didn't really intend to do anything to him. The only thing she could do was to provoke him with these words. Mo Wushang, you'd better not disturb her. Don't let her hate you again. You should know that the current Qin is in a dilemma. If you really love her and cherish her, you should stay away from her and take the initiative to withdraw. That way, she won't be in a difficult position, right? This emperor is asking you, where is she? Do you think that I'll tell you? Saying this, it's bad. Something's happened. The right protector, she? Lu Qingru didn't have long to be proud of herself when an anxious change suddenly came from behind her. She turned around abruptly, and her fair face twisted. What? What happened? Baidu, Read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, Prince Regent, Provoking Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 952. The person knelt on the ground in fear and looked at her. Right protector. Something happened to the right protector. Something happened to the right protector? She had arranged for the right protector to stay by Immerse's side to protect her. Her heart tightened, and she picked up the woman from the ground. What about Immerse? What about Immerse? Replying to Saintess, it was the right protector, Miss Shun. Miss Shun is fine. Hearing her say that Immerse was fine, Lu Qingrou's worried heart finally relaxed. She slightly released her and lowered her eyes to look at her. What happened to the right guardian? The right protector's martial arts were high, and she was her left and right assistant alongside the left protector. Just one of them was enough to resist an army. Yes. The person didn't know how to tell Lu Qingrou in front of Mo Wushang. Seeing her apprehension, Lu Qingrou clenched her fists fiercely and glared at Mo Wushang with unwillingness. Our conversation today will end here. I still have matters to attend to when I return. Mo Wushang, you better think carefully about what I said. After all, we are doing this for Qing's sake, right? Mo Wushang didn't stop her anymore as he watched her walk away, because there was no need to stop her. His eyes were as dark as a bottomless abyss. It was as if he could be sucked in if someone looked at him. Your Majesty, Ji Chu and Hong Fui also rushed over. Almost as soon as they arrived, they smelled the thick smell of blood. Both of them frowned at the same time. Why is the smell of blood here so strong? Did you kill that woman from the Shimming sect? Otherwise, why would there be such a strong smell of blood? Hong Fui frowned and looked at him. The man didn't move. His handsome face was like an ice blade. After hearing his words, he turned around and looked at him. It's Pang Yuan. Pang Yuan? Both of their expressions changed. They had sent people to search for Pang Yuan's whereabouts for a long time, but to no avail. They didn't expect her to be here. Then they thought, this thick, disgusting smell of blood was probably coming from Pang Yuan's body. Didn't that mean that Pang Yuan had an accident? Otherwise, how could there be such a strong smell of blood on her body? Even if he was heavily injured, it was impossible for him to be like this. There was no time to think. Hong Fui's expression changed, and he almost immediately brushed away the bushes to look for it. Sure enough, after looking around, following the strong smell of blood, they found a corpse in a pile of weeds. The body did not belong to Pang Yuan, but to her maid, Xiao. Hong Fui still remembered the maid dress that she wore when she left the palace today. As a man, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the scene before him. He saw that Xiao, who was originally a living person, was now a corpse, as if it had been crushed by something. It was fragmented, and no human shape could be seen at all. From head to toe, there was not a single part of her body that was intact. The only part of her that wasn't damaged was the clothes she was wearing. Where is Pang Yuan? Even a maidservant was tortured to such a state. Who was it that had such a deep hatred with her? Needless to say, Pang Yuan's fate would definitely be 100 times worse than this miserable servant girl's. The servant girl had suffered such inhumane torture. Needless to say, Pang Yuan's fate would definitely be 100 times worse than this miserable servant girl. Sure enough, Ji Chu did not search for long. In another bush, he found Pang Yuan's body. Compared to Xiao's body, Pang Yuan's body was incomparable. After Hong Fui saw it, he did not take a breath for a long time. After a long time, his eyes silently stared at Pang Yuan's body. Mo Wushang, come and see for yourself. The man seemed to have not heard it and turned his body indifferently. Mo Wushang. Hong Fui's voice involuntarily became louder. Come and see. Pang Yuan was tortured like this, and after her death she did not even have a whole body. If Grand Tutor Pang knew about this, how are you going to explain it to him? This matter is related to Shun Yueji. Everyone knows what happened at the inn tonight. With so many eyes watching, Pang Yuan's death must have something to do with Shun Yueji. It has nothing to do with her. I know it has nothing to do with her. But will Grand Tutor Pang believe it? Will those people believe it? Tonight, Pang Yuan confidently said that Shun Yueji had an affair with another man. Before returning to the palace, she was brutally murdered. All the spearheads are pointing at Xun Yueji, and now she is missing. Hong Fui still wanted to say something. However, he also knew that there were some things that did not need to be said. In fact, Mo Wushang understood. For example, the matter that happened tonight, all the spearheads were pointing at Xun Yueji. It was obvious that she had something to do with it. Even if they believed Xun Yueji, what could they do? Would Grand Tutor Pang believe it? Would the people present and those who came here believe it? None of them. Now, it is better not to spread the matter of Pang Yuan's death. This way, we still have enough time to save Xun Yueji. With her as a witness, and the Xianming sect interference, we will definitely be able to prove her innocence. The main thing was that she had also disappeared. Even if they knew the truth, it was difficult not to suspect her, let alone Grand Tutor Pang and the others. This servant, I can also testify. I am the person that mistrusts the most. Double Happiness came out of the darkness. She had seen all kinds of scenes in her life. Only this time, when she saw Pang Yuan and Xiao Er's corpses, she would not be able to sleep peacefully for a few months. Just Xiao Er alone was enough to scare her to death. She did not expect that besides Xiao Er, there was also Pang Yuan. After these two master and servant died, one was more horrified than the other, and one was more frightening than the other. In the past, she had only heard of the Xianming sect and knew that it was an evil sect. After all, it was an evil sect of the northern underworld, which was thousands of miles away from the Foam country. She was just a servant of the general's mansion. Now, just seeing Pang Yuan and Xiao Er's miserable state, Double Happiness could not help but worry about Xun Yueji. If Miss did not fall for Lu Qingrou's trick, would that pervert do anything to Miss? Also, the general and madam were in Lu Qingrou's hands. That pervert had already destroyed one of young Master Shangguan's arms. Thinking of Shangguan Yu, Double Happiness felt sorry for him. She did not know how pitiful young Master Shangguan was. What did he do wrong? Why was he treated like this? He used to love Miss but was despised by Mississippi. Now, he only wanted to see Miss happy, but he was tortured to this state by that pervert, Pang Yuan. If Grand Tutor Pang saw his daughter's miserable state, not to mention that you are the person that Xun Yueji trusts the most. Baidu read the latest chapter of Exploding Cute Pet Concubine, Prince Regent, Provoking Body Claw Bookhouse for free. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.